Listen, the state of North Carolina has 8 teams in the NCAA baseball tournament. Only one team is hosting a regional this weekend. Probably could have been more than that. That's where we bring in play-by-play extraordinaire, USA Baseball, and, of course, ladies, he's a Sagittarius, Daron Vaught. Thank you for joining us today, my man. Daron, tell me a little bit more about this. Did Campbell get robbed of hosting a regional? They were one of the top 16 teams at the end of the season, and they are not hosting in Bowie's Creek. Did they get robbed?
Yeah, I mean, you could go back and forth on this a lot. I think Indiana State in Terre Haute is the team that really propelled itself to that hosting spot as opposed to Campbell. And for the record, Campbell had put in a bid to host at Segra Stadium in Fayetteville rather than their own Jim Perry Stadium on campus there in Bowie's Creek because of capacity requirements by the NCAA. That did not factor into the decision. I think for Campbell, all it boils down to, their last regular season weekend, they dropped a couple of games and thus a series to USC Upstate. Like, if you're going to be the dominant team in a Big South or a smaller conference, a CAA, we saw this with East Carolina, of course, in the American losing their conference tournament championship game to Tulane. If you're going to be the dominant team in a smaller conference like that, you can't slip up. And the one slip up, I think, toward the end of the season is what cost Campbell hosting rights. Now, they've
USC
got a
Upstate
favorable draw.
Is that the USC Upstate slip up that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's, because then they followed it up. They got the Big South Conference Championship, which, again, was sort of expected. Had they really gone through and run the table in their own conference, I think they would have had a pretty good case. But as I was saying, they've got a pretty good favorable draw in Columbia. I mean, that's NC State's there as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about. I mean, that's a very winnable region.
That it is. Daron Vaught, USA Baseball, joining us here in the Heatstra Automotive Group hotline alongside Chris Lea. Dennis Cox here with you. Let's get into that regional here real quick. NC State, I know you said they were on the bubble of getting in. Obviously, they're in it now after not making it last season. How winnable is that region for both State and Campbell going down to South Carolina?
Yeah, let me put it this way. South Carolina, because of a really, really, really good first half of the season, gets this hosting bid. If we were to put it as such, like, give me Campbell or NC State as one possibility and then South Carolina as the other, I would probably bet that Campbell or NC State comes out of the region. And of course, I mean, you're doing 2 teams instead of one. I get that. But when you're dealing with an SEC host team, I mean, that is a pretty big deal. Campbell can hit with anybody. They can score runs with anybody in the country. NC State, sort of in that same territory. Really, for the Wolfpack, it's about what they're going to get out of it. Campbell, too, honestly. It's about what they're going to get out of their pitching staffs, which have been up and down all season. But South Carolina has shown in the second half of the season, like, they're very beatable. It would not surprise me at all if one of our 2 teams from the state of North Carolina comes out of the Columbia Regional.
Okay, so you went perfectly into the next question. Daron Vaught joining us, USA Baseball. You mentioned the SEC. There are 8 hosting sites that are SEC teams, so half. There are 8 ACC teams in the entire tournament. One is the NCAA a little bit skewed towards SEC baseball. And then secondly, should there have been more ACC teams potentially hosting?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, look, the SEC bias, I'm using my air quotes, is certainly there.
No, it's real. No air quotes. No air quotes, Daron. It's real.
There. It's there.
But also, it is the best conference in college baseball. Does that mean that the ACC is not a good conference? No, both can be true. Now, 8 hosts when Boston College had a really good resume to be one of those 16, and I thought they would be hosting in the Northeast. Columbia being the one that sort of surprised me. I thought the Gamecocks had played their way out of hosting privileges. you can split hairs, and maybe one or two of them is swapped. Look, all of these teams in the SEC that are hosting are good. They're all capable of getting to Omaha. They're all capable, honestly, of winning the whole thing. I mean, hell, we saw that the number 9 team in the SEC win the whole shebang last year in Ole Miss. So the SEC, ACC, any team that makes it, you have played a schedule that has primed your team to go a long way. Omaha and beyond, maybe come away winning the whole thing. So, there's a bias. It's for good reason. The SEC is really, really good at baseball, but guess what? So is the ACC.
ACC is great. SEC is good. There's a difference between the two, Daron. A final question for my man, Daron Vaught, USA Baseball. ACC's only won a championship a couple times. The ACC has had a team go to the College World Series in Omaha, I think each of the last 16 years, and 10 of those 16, there have been multiple ACC schools to go, but in recent years, only Virginia has actually won a national championship. Can an ACC school, and if so, which ones you think are primed to actually take this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to deny Clemson, the ACC tournament champions, because they are coming in to their regional, hosting there at Doug Kingsmore Stadium, and they're white hot. They've won 16 consecutive games. Wake Forest is still the number 1 team in the country, guys, and they are leaps and bounds the best and most talented team in college baseball. The only concern there is that the overall number 1 seed has not won this tournament and taken home the national championship since the 90s. It's been a long, long time since that's been the case. I think Wake Forest could do it, but this is a tournament that creates some wacky results. I think Clemson, if they stay hot, certainly can potentially win the whole thing. Miami as a number 1 seed and a host in Coral Gables is very good also. Virginia is a complete team, top to bottom, that could win the whole thing. Certainly some of the other schools could make it to Omaha, but those would be the ACC programs that I think really are contenders to win it all.
Daron Vaught, really quick, 60 seconds or less. Outside of the ACC teams from the state of North Carolina, which one of the other teams you think can make it the furthest? Is it Campbell? Is it ECU? Do you think UNC Charlotte or UNC Wilmington could possibly make a nice, deep little run?
Yeah, I don't like ECU's draw going to Charlottesville. That's going to be a good strength on strength. Virginia's lineup is really good throughout, and ECU can really pitch it. Honestly, whoever comes out of Campbell, NC State, give me that team, and I think that is a team that's going to have a really, really good chance to make a run.
Nice.
Daron Vaught, USA Baseball, at Daron Vaught. Thanks for your time, and enjoy Friday. It's like March Madness Day 1 for you.
You know it is, man. You know it is. Appreciate you guys.